Discover the Women in Tech Trailblazers podcast, hosted by Tiffany, Benitez, and Jordan Franklin. Here, the complexities of being a woman in the tech industry are unraveled through discussions on key issues, personal growth, and how to succeed despite systematic challenges. It's a source of empowerment and inspiration for all women at all stages of their tech careers. Welcome to Women in Tech Trailblazers. We are so excited to be back with you today and to introduce the guest that we have here, Leslie Luque. She is a beacon of inspiration. I will tell you, that is a true statement just from being in her presence. She is a phenomenal woman. She is from originally Sinaloa, Mexico, and proudly representing the legacy of first-generation immigrants and college graduates. That is huge. Great job. Arriving in Charlotte at the age of 5 with her family, she embarked on a journey marked by resilience and determination. She is a distinguished alumni of HBCU. She played a pivotal role in establishing the inaugural Latina sorority chapter at her undergraduate institution. Yay! And with a career spanning 7 years in the tech industry, Leslie has honored her skills across diverse roles, excelling as a Scrum Master, quality assurance tester, and business analyst. And her journey, as all of ours, has not been without trials. Navigating complexities of growing up undocumented instilled in her a profound appreciation for hard work, resilience, and the richness of her culture and heritage. Leslie, outside of all the professional endeavors, her impact extends far beyond the role on the leadership team for the Latinas and Tech Organization North Carolina chapter, which, may I mention, she helped co-found. She juggles various commitments and revels in the joys of motherhood. Kudos to you. You have an amazing bio, and just super proud, Leslie, to have you here today. You have an amazing story, and today we're going to focus on Latinas in tech, breaking the barriers. So welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome. So happy to have you on our podcast today. And I always like to kick it off with a thanks for coming and really kind of dig into what our podcast is about. So if you've been listening, you know the purpose of our podcast is to really dig in, talk about what it is to be a woman in tech and how our authentic selves can be brought to the table to really get a seat there and kind of make space for, not kind of, actually make space for others to pull up a seat next to us. We really like to dive in and discuss topics that matter to women in technology and bring awareness to what we talk through to create space for others. Like I said, really adding that extra seat at the table. So we always like to start off with the question of, what does authenticity mean to you?
Oh man, so I think maybe just being myself, like if I'm able to talk to you guys like I do with my friends, my best friends, that's just my personality, right? I'm very soft-spoken. My life is a hot mess. So like me being able to say I'm a hot mess and others understanding that, I think that's me being authentic, right? Because I think with social media being so profound in our lives, people love to project a perfect lifestyle, and I don't have that. And I'm very real with my friends and say, you know what, I do all these things, but I'm trying to, make it day by day. So just making light of my situation in terms of how crazy my life is. So that's just me being authentic, and then saying, hey, I thrive on iced coffee. I don't know what I'm doing. Sometimes these kids that I have, it's the hardest job I've ever had in my life. So just being able to have those honest and real conversations with people and not feeling judged in spaces.
No, absolutely.
Yeah. Hot Mess Express, Jordan, here we are. So Leslie, just know you're not alone. Also, we totally own that. Like, when did it ever get created that being a Hot Mess Express was not okay, and that for some reason pretending to have it all together and all the pressure that comes with that is what we should conform to? It's absurd. I really appreciate you saying that. And that is something that I seriously say to people all the time, because it's okay to not have your crap together all the time. It is okay to be a mess.
Yeah, well, and I have to say that during COVID, I think a lot of us realized that in order to get through, for me, I had twin 5-year-olds and a 1-year-old at home, right? In order to get through that, there was moments in time that I put my leggings on inside out and took them outside to play because I got my work done and my kids were alive and fed, but just being able to be like, yeah, hey, I'm here, I'm alive, they're alive, we're good. I think that's authentic too.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
And I
Okay,
love that we have
Leslie.
this community where we can talk
Yeah.
about things like that.
That's it. That's exactly it, right? I think that for so long, it's not that everyone hasn't been a hot mess. I think that we just don't talk about it. We also don't talk about it being okay. And so, number one, I'm proud of you for getting on and saying that, right? Because could totally have been like, I'm great, all is fine. And authentic means just like I show up and I be my whole self, but I mean, owning what it really is really powerful. So I'm really curious on, and I'm sure everyone is, because that's why we're here. We do like to talk about our personal journeys and our journey, especially into tech, because most of the time it was completely untraditional for all of us. And so can you share a little bit about your personal journey of entering the tech industry, not only as a woman, but as a Latina woman, and just what that wholly looked like?
So it was all, I think, a mistake. And I say that because I grew up in low income schools. So because, growing immigrant, from an immigrant family, the schools I went to, now that I think about it, we didn't have any resources at all. I remember my parents always told me, you're going to go to college. This is what we brought you to this country for. You're going to do amazing. But they never told me, hey, but guess what? Because you're undocumented, you can't go to college. I didn't know that. I didn't know that until I hit high school and I started researching. I was always the straight A student, right? So I made sure I always told myself, you're here to make your parents proud. You're here to make your family proud. This is what you have to do. So in my mind, there was no other like option available, right? But I thought that I was going to be an accountant. I thought because I was really good at math, I was going to be in finance or business, something like that, because I didn't know any other career options. In my high school and my middle school, no one really talked about computer science. We took computer classes, but it was, for typing and Microsoft, Excel, things like that. But we never had someone come and talk to us about, hey, when you go to college, these are the options that you have. So what happened was my senior year of high school, I was enrolled into, I didn't choose this class. It was like a web development class. It was a level 1 where you learn HTML, CSS, just web design, right? The fundamentals of it. And no one chose that class because no one knew nothing about it. So they just enrolled people in it. And I remember thinking nothing of it. It was just another class I was put in with my friends. So we got into it, and that's when I learned about creating websites. And I remember it was before we're going to take our finals. And my teacher came up to me. He was a young male, a white male teacher. And he got along with everyone. He was like the cool teacher, everyone, will come up to you and things like that. So he made the class really fun. And he came up to me one day and he was like, hey, you know that you're the only person in the school right now that has 100% in my class? And I was like, no. I was like, I didn't know about it. So he was like, what are you going to do? What are you going to study when you go to college? And I was like, and this was when I was facing the aspect of I didn't know if I was going to college because I know I didn't have a social security. I had started applying for a lot of schools and I already received acceptance letters, but they were like, oh, but we need your social security. And I didn't have one at that time. So I was just at that time, I don't know if you guys know about DACA or the DREAM Act. The DREAM Act was going into Congress and it got denied. So I was a hot mess in terms of I thought that I wasn't going to go to school. I had to think about like plan B options. What was I going to do? And I was just in a very emotional state. So I told him, I was like, I don't know. I was like, I thought I was going to go for accounting or business or something. And then he's the one that told me, have you thought about computer science? It was something around those lines. And I was like, I have no idea what you're talking about. So I just kept it in the back of my mind. And he told me, he was like, maybe you should think about it. Maybe you should research it because you're really good at it. And it's a good career path. So I left it at that. And then finally, I was able to I got into Johnson C. Smith University. So that's a private university. And because they have private funds, they were able to grant me a full tuition scholarship. Because of my grades, I had like perfect ACT scores. I was like top 10 in my high school class. I forget it was top 10 or top 5. I was like way up there because I had like hours. I'm saying like I had like 100 plus hours of community service. I was the perfect student on the books, right? So what stopped me was just I didn't have a social security. So I give thanks and glory to Johnson C. Smith always, because they opened those doors for me. And it was a group of us that actually attended school with the same situation. So we all have the same history. We all have the same background. So when I came into school, I think I lacked maybe like $10,000 per year, because the scholarship didn't cover all of the tuition. So it was a very expensive school. And then what's it called? The coach, that the admission counselor for the school, was like, hey, what career do you want to pick? And then we were talking about career options, and I told him what I liked, things that he was like, have you thought about having a career in STEM? He was like, I have a STEM scholarship you qualify for. And I was like, I have no idea. I was like, but give it to me, because if it's going to cover everything else, why not? I'll figure it out. So that's how it started. I got that STEM scholarship just to, the advisor told me, hey, if you take this STEM scholarship, and he explained to me, he was like, you could do computer science information systems, because it's a mix of business, finance, what you like, but then you also get the background of computer science as well. So that's how I started. I knew nothing about it, so I went in head on, having no idea what was going to be of my career or anything.
I think that's a normal theme, though. Like, most of us that ended up, now your theme is not the normal theme, but the theme of like us not knowing that we were going to go into tech, or we didn't have computer science classes. Like, I know I'm older than you, but like, we typed on a computer, learned a little bit about Microsoft, and called it a day. And so I heard a lot of themes when you were talking. Number one, all schools do not have the same opportunities, right? So I know that across our nation, I know there's a lot of people and lawmakers working on that, but there is an awareness that we as a community need to understand that all schools do not have the same opportunities. So when groups like Women in Technology or other groups like that are really focusing on where can they pour their resources and efforts, we need to go to the school systems that do not have that, right? I think it's really important that all of us in the community really do that. And then the second thing was kudos to those two teachers, right? And I loved that they were men. I wish that they were women, but the reality is there's 28% of us, okay? So there's not a lot of us spread around. But kudos to those two men for standing for you and telling you, here, this is available to you. This is an option. This is an opportunity. So you could actually, take off in an amazing place.
Yeah. Now I think you're right. They were men and they advocated for me. And I had another male teacher that he was very supportive of me as well. I still keep in contact with them to this day. They love hearing, updates about my life and everything. So I love having that support.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And I think you spoke to some of this, but what would you say were very unique challenges, or even still are unique challenges, to being a Latina in tech? And how have you overcome those?
There's been a lot of challenges. So like I said, I didn't have a direct pathway, right? So when I graduated college, because I had an internship with Bank of America, they offered me right on off the bat of opportunity with them to start once I graduated. So I started right off the back of Bank of America. And I was really in like a shock, because I navigated from being book smart, because I was straight A student. I navigated school always, reading, understanding what I learned, taking tests. And I never really had that experience, or maybe opportunity to have maybe see like a day in the life of what I was going to do. So I started off as a business analyst, and then it was just the navigating the lack of diversity and representation within the industry. I was always finding myself as one of the few women, and let alone Latinas, in meetings or on project teams. So really, at the beginning of my career, I really felt isolated, and I felt the need to constantly prove myself in these predominantly male spaces. And I'm very soft-spoken. So I didn't really know. I wanted to raise my hand and I wanted to learn more, but I didn't have someone telling me, navigating me like, hey, like maybe you can do this, or maybe you can go this route, until I moved companies into where I am right now. I feel like I've had better spaces to feel accepted into. And I've really overcame these challenges by staying true to myself, by asking questions, just continue learning and growing and advocating for myself, and being part of organizations like Latinas in Tech, and just myself going out there on LinkedIn and finding others that maybe I can like talk to or ask questions when it came to my careers and other questions that I had as a woman.
Yeah. Well, and I think what you really harped on was you've built a network,
Hmm.
right? You've built a network of people that are really helping you move forward. And that's been a common theme. That's the reason if you hear us say you get a seat at the table, but you bring another seat with you, right? That's your network. And I think in order to be successful, period, but also in order to be a successful mom, you have to have a
Yes.
network, right?
Let's take a moment to thank our sponsors, Women in Technology of Northwest Arkansas and Gumption at my-gumption.com for their support. Their contributions are critical in bringing these meaningful conversations to you. Stick around for more engaging discussions right after this break.
Another question, right? Why is representation important in the tech industry, particularly for Latinas?
I think it's very crucial for several reasons. Firstly, diverse representation, I think, fosters innovation and creativity. So when teams are comprised of individuals from different backgrounds and perspectives, they bring like a variety of ideas and approaches to problem solving. And then this thought is essential for developing maybe innovative solutions that address the need of diverse user bases. I think someone as well, like myself, seeing someone who looks like me succeed in the tech industry, it has instilled like a sense of possibility and belonging as well. A sense of powerful message that their voices, our experiences and contributions are valued and respected. And on an individual level, I think representation opens up opportunities for career advancements and professional growth. Latinas and maybe other underrepresented groups can find ourselves represented in leadership positions, and we are paving the way for our own success and providing role models for others to emulate. So I think me seeing now that I've been in this space with Latinas in tech, and I've seen so many amazing, smart, educated women on leadership teams and as CEOs and as, higher up there, it's like, wow, I can do it. And, they look like me and they understand me, or they've had similar backgrounds, because culture is very important to us. And there's a lot of things that in our culture that really stops us as women from maybe pursuing higher roles or in our careers in general.
You said some
Yeah.
really powerful things. I was actually thinking earlier when you were saying that early on in your career, like, not that this probably doesn't happen now, but that you're like one of the only women in meetings, right? Or one of the very few Latinas in the meeting. And the thing is that is a very true statement for so many of us as women. And the reality is that most of us run. Now, you have a strength and a courage that your whole life you've never run, right? You've continued pushing forward. But in those spaces, it's part of the reason that our numbers stay so low is that people don't stay. Our girls want to see people that look like them. I had someone in the event that we had this past week. Literally, we had like an interactive panel, and she raised her hand and she said, when I go to apply for a job, I look up online what their leadership team looks like. And if there's no one that looks like me, I won't apply. And while that was her statement, it is a very real statement for a lot of us as women. And so we've got to push through. We've got to continue to do this and to fight this fight so our girls of the next generation can see people that look like them. Our tables, if they only look one way, whether that's race, gender, ethnicity, it is a weak table. I don't care if you like that or don't like it, you can take it anyways, right? Like it or lump it, it is what it is, and it's the truth. So if everyone at your table looks like you have the weakest table. So the strength in the table is when there are diverse perspectives and opinions, and where it comes from a multitude, again, of genders, race, ethnicity. So I really loved that. And then you said something else with regards to, as you were trying to figure out and kind of find your way, right? You're soft spoken anyways. You weren't quite sure, like at that point, how to like really raise your hand. Like, I know you, so you do an amazing job of that now. But the reality is we push ourselves into almost this imposter syndrome, right? Of like, because I'm soft-spoken or because I'm early in my career and I don't know what to do, we like live in this constant cycle of imposter syndrome, which FYI, every single one of us face, no matter where you are. But I would say it's very common among professionals, particularly women and minorities. And I want to know like how you've navigated and dealt with imposter syndrome in your career, and really kind of what advice do you have for other Latinas or Latinos or minorities in general or women overall that are facing these similar challenges?
Man, I feel like an imposter every single day sometimes, because sometimes I feel like I really don't know what I'm doing in my career. And I'm still trying to navigate that. And when I've been in networking events, I've really only started networking not that long ago. And I've realized it's such an empowering thing to talk about my own struggles, right? Because that way others can relate to me as well. So for example, like I said, I went into my career not knowing anything. I didn't know what a business analyst did. I didn't feel like I was prepped to go into the job. It was more hands-on learning at that time. So I would go into meetings not knowing answers, and I would have like a heads down kind of thing, because if you come from like an immigrant background, you know all the time that they tell, at least my parents, from my experience, they're just like, as long as you do your work, you keep your head down and you contribute enough, that's enough, right? Versus speaking up whenever maybe I was seeing something that wasn't right, or speaking up and saying, hey, I don't feel comfortable, or hey, sometimes I was confused and I didn't want to seem dumb by asking questions. Like I felt like I was supposed to know these things. So I've just, despite my qualifications and accomplishments, I've always found myself doubting my abilities and feeling like I didn't belong in these certain spaces. Like sometimes I felt like it's just luck. I'm here because of luck. And I realized that I've had to credit myself and be like, no, you worked hard for this. Like just like everyone else in here, I've had to be more open with myself and like just pat my own self in the back, right? And then I think one strategy I found helpful in overcoming this is just reframing my thoughts and focusing on my strengths and achievements. Instead of dwelling on perceived like inadequacies that I think about myself, I remind myself of the skills, my experiences, my contributions that have led to my success. I keep a journal of accomplishments or maybe positive feedback from I've gotten from teams, colleagues, mentors. And so those help me remind myself during moments of self-doubt that sometimes I need that reassurance of like, hey, no, like you're not lucky. Like you've worked hard to be where you are right now.
Leslie, I do the same thing. So I have it in my bio, like on my computer, I add at the bottom all the like little accomplishments, like how
Yeah.
can I make this better at some point in time? But just reading it, you're like, oh, I am cool.
Yeah, like right. Like wow, I did all this. It's
Yeah.
amazing to hear back.
Yeah. Well, and especially since we, like you said, we don't give ourselves kudos enough. And keeping that journal to go back and be like, look at what I've done, like really sitting there and taking it all in. Sometimes I don't think we take the time to do that. We reach an achievement and we just kind of go on from there.
Jordan, I
Um,
want to tell you this because I want us to kind of share this with Leslie too, because this is obviously the first time she's being featured on here. But Leslie, we have like executive level women that have been on here, and can I tell you that their most uncomfortable piece is when we have to do their bio, that is all their accomplishments in the beginning.
I
So it's
felt
like
yeah.
it's innate for us to like feel really uncomfortable. And so that's where we're going to have to be intentional about pushing ourselves out of our comfort zone and celebrating those things. And it's not bragging, right? There's a way to do that, but I think that it's really important. And then I want to take it one step further of like, surround yourself with women, because it's mostly women that struggle with this. Surround yourself with women that are clapping for you too. Listen, if they're silent, best believe there's some other things going on, which is totally fine. No one has the energy to figure that out, nor am I going to, but I am not going to inner circle surround myself with women that are not clapping for me. Women, we have got to do better. This is not a competition. We all can shine. We were created to do different things in different ways, and the petty just really has to stop.
Yeah.
yeah. Well, and I
Mhm.
also think that like this goes back to some of the things that are just like innately in us, right? Like we suck sometimes at taking compliments, right? You downplay them. Oh, your pants are cute. Thanks. I got them at Sam's Club or wherever. Or like you just kind of downplay it, right? Oh, thanks. I
Yes.
got them for $5. But just saying thanks and moving on is where we've got to get to, right? Because someone's complimenting you. Take it. But I think that goes hand in hand with being able to not brag about ourselves, but talk and have someone talk about your accomplishments and be proud of what you've done instead of like kind of want to crawl into that little hole and hide away.
I agree 100% with both of you.
Yeah. So, okay, now let's talk about some leadership and innovation. Looking ahead, what do you envision for the future of Latinas in the tech industry?
So, looking ahead, I envision a future where Latinas play a central role in shaping the tech industry, maybe driving innovation and advancing diversity, equity, and inclusion. To achieve these visions, I think several steps can be taken to create more inclusive, like a system or community for us. So I think like increasing representation of Latinas in tech is one. So seeing them in leadership positions for critical to foster like a more inclusive industry. Also education and training, maybe providing access to quality education and training in tech related fields. That's one of my most things that I love. And Tiffany knows is this is why I want to take on a leadership for the Women in Tech Charlotte chapter, because I really want to help other women who maybe didn't have access to the college education that I had, because I feel like I was very blessed to have been given that scholarship to attend JCSU. And I know there were so many other women who qualified for it, maybe so many other students that didn't even know about the opportunity, so they didn't apply, right? So now thinking forward is like, how can I help other women, other Latinas, maybe because they have experience as a waitress or other jobs, like these certifications can help change their lives. And I want to make sure that they see someone that looks like me and say, hey, look, I've gone this far. This is my experience. Let me help you. I'm not gatekeeping. I want everyone to win. Like, if you want to succeed, there are ways to succeed. You don't have to just stay complacent where you are. And also, I think mentorship and sponsorship, also looking for mentors and sponsors for your career. We need to also have diversity and inclusion initiatives, also with organizations, partnering with other organizations, maybe to help us create a supportive environment for us and other underrepresented groups. I think it also takes community building. We need to build strong communities and networks to support Latinas, to maybe build or foster like a collaboration network where we can share resources and advocate for change. So there's a lot of organizations like that going on now. So I think we're heading in a great route. Like where we are right now, Latinas in tech, women in tech, everything that we're doing is providing a great pathway for others to see that, we're going to succeed. And if I have to pick you up and hold your hand and tell you this is what you have to do to get there, I will do that. And I will make sure that I take the right steps to show you like what the right way to do. Like learn from my failures, right? This is what I did wrong. Learn from them. Don't commit the same mistakes. So I just want to help others, and I know that we're going to be great moving forward in the future. Like I have zero doubts.
That is amazing. And I think it really segues into one of our next topics, which is really around support networks and mentorship. And okay, it is very easy in the middle of all the things we've talked about today. Your background and past, right? The fight to get where you are, the way that we all deal with imposter syndrome. So that's a lot, right? That's a lot on you. But what I heard you say was, it's not about me. Like I lived this and this is my story, but I am helping other women and other girls because they need to know. And that is something that is really important. I know that like mentorship is near and dear to your heart. Obviously, with the organizations that you serve with, that's near and dear to your heart. But can you just tell us a little bit about like the impact and value that you see that comes from mentorship, sponsorships, and networks around you?
Yeah, so mentorship, I didn't really have a mentor until I came to my company right now. So I didn't feel like I had a community at my old company. I didn't know how to navigate that because it was huge. And so when I moved to my current company, it was a rotational program. So it was a 3-year rotational program. And I scouted. Her name is Cynthia Jaime. So shout out to Cynthia. She was my first mentor ever coming over. And I was like, oh my gosh, is that a Latina? And she's a manager. So my first rotation that I had, I was with a different team, and we were able to talk to other managers. So that way, for our next rotation, we knew where to go. So I scouted her and I was like, she's going to be my manager. And the only reason why was because she was Latina. I saw no other Latina manager ever. So moving over to her team, and she got me. She was like, I'm gonna help you. Like, I got you. So I moved over to her team, and she really helped me a lot. It came at a time where I became a first-time mom, and she had kids also. So that cultural difference I was able to relate to her really helped me because I was struggling with my pregnancies. I had a high risk pregnancy. I came back to work and then it was COVID and then I got pregnant again. And I had two babies back to back. And I was just like, oh my God, my job's going to hate me. Or, I'm going to lose my job because I'm here getting pregnant instead of working. And she helped like calm all of my doubts. So if it wasn't for her mentorship, I don't know what I would have been at right now. I think I have a very different mindset now thanks to her because she was in my pathway years ago. And then when it comes to sponsorship actually is something new to me. It's a term I learned last year, but from my research, I know that sponsorships are influential, maybe leaders who actively champion and support their mentees by whether recommending them for projects, promotions, or networking opportunities. So sponsorship is something that I'm working on right now, seeing, who can I have as my sponsor moving forward for my career. I'm at a point where I kind of paused in my career because being a mom was so hard and plus COVID. And now that my kids are a little bit bigger and they're in school now, I have more time. So now I'm like, okay, back on my career grind, trying to move up and get be more active, I guess, and put myself out there so that team members or maybe others outside my network know like I'm here trying to crush it and nothing else is gonna stop me, right? And can you help me? Like I've met so many amazing people that I've been able to grow my network, and I know that I have a great team behind me and just a network that's amazing.
Yeah. Well, and I really think that network, like I've said, I'm all about networking and everything. So I love that you have a great network. We are getting close on time, so we like to kind of keep these short. I'm going to ask two questions combined in one. So what would you say the, overall outlook is? What's the future outlook for authentic women leaders in tech? But also, what would be one piece of advice that you want to leave our listeners moving forward as well?
I would say to just not be scared. I limited myself because of my career. I'm going to share this, like my dream. Once I learned what technology careers were out there, I really wanted to move to San Francisco and work for Sephora, or maybe like I'm big into makeup and hair, and like I used to do makeup at school, so I would have like people come to my dorm room and I would do the makeup for when they were going out on the weekends. I would gain money like that. I used to love Starbucks too. I used to be a barista. So I was like, hey, like I'm in the tech. What if I move over there and I work for Starbucks, or maybe I work for, again, Sephora, so a company that I love. And I never did it because my mom was scared because I had DACA. She was like, what are you going to do if something happens to you over there? What are you going to do? So I don't resent her for that. But I feel like as the older sister, I was like, I wish I would have just followed my own purpose that I knew I wanted to do, like not have my family hinder me from getting where I wanted to be. And so I would say just follow your dreams. Like your family is always going to be there. Don't be scared to go somewhere new, be alone, because it helps you grow in ways that you maybe never will know would have been possible.
Agreed.
Love
I love it.
Well, thank you for coming to join us today. Thank you for sharing your amazing, phenomenal, full of courage, strength, and inspiration story with us. I know that it's busy and hard to take time out, but thank you for coming to talk to us. Thank you for coming to talk to our listeners. Thank you to all of our listeners for tuning in and subscribing as normal. You will see Leslie's information, her social information at the end of this episode, so you can connect with her and continue to see all the amazing things that she's doing. Thank you guys so much. Look forward to talking to you soon.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Bye.
Subscribe, like, share.
Well, that's a wrap. Another episode of Women in Tech Trailblazers podcast. Thanks for tuning in and sharing this time with us. If you liked what you heard, please share this episode with your friends in tech. And don't forget to subscribe to our podcast. Your support helps us keep bringing in inspiring guests and uncovering topics that matter to you. Until next time, keep pushing boundaries and making your mark in the tech world. Goodbye for now.